From Studio B, it's Outside the Box with Alex Ansary coming from Texas. That's right, we're doing a Texas show today. And I guess what I'll do is let you see. Okay, here I am at the control booth, all by my lonesome. And I'm going to let you see Alex. There's Alex, live from Texas. Say hi, Alex.
Live from Dallas, Texas, I'm Alex Ansary, and this is Outside the Box. It's October 24th, 2011. And Bill, I want to thank you for setting this up tonight, making sure we go live tonight. It's been 5 weeks. I know you guys have seen a lot of reruns. I'm sure there's been some confusion. Where's Alex? Alex is fine. Everything's good. We've got a lot of news we're going to cover. And I am in Dallas, Texas for the immediate moment in time. And I think change is good every now and then, and change up your environment. And I'm going to be producing Outside the Box from here and other news reports on things going on. So hopefully we'll be able to get that to you in the weeks ahead right here on Portland Community Media. So there's been a lot of things happening since I've been gone, and a lot of things to cover with things escalating between the United States and China. The Occupy Wall Street protests have gained attention and spread in out cities and towns beyond just the U.S., including places like London and New Zealand. But while, of course, the focus is on the protests, we also need to be aware of the preparations that the East is making for the world of tomorrow. So we'll talk tonight about this massive railway plan that Russia has to connect to the United States up in Siberia. We'll talk about the United States waging war on China's yuan with their latest currency bill and the repercussions that could follow from this. We'll talk about some of the things involving Iran right now. Looks like our government is about to set up Iran to launch yet another war. I don't know why Iran would want to commit terror attacks inside the United States or how they would benefit from that. But this is what our country is saying. They're saying that Iran wanted to set something up, so we have to respond in a military fashion. So this is very serious and points to the fact that the U.S. is going for broke to expand the wars it started. It doesn't matter that Obama's the president. The agenda is moving full steam ahead. They're looking at Iran right now. They're looking at Syria. They're looking at Uganda. They're looking at Pakistan. And so there's certainly a lot of stuff going on that is not being covered by Keith Oberlin on MSNBC or Glenn Beck or any of the other individuals working for the mainstream media. So we'll start our show tonight, and I guess we'll try to take phone calls, Bill. I don't know how this is going to work, but we'll allow people to try to call in tonight at 503-288-4442 and see if we can communicate at some point. Of course, this is a pilot demo live Skype show, so we're also going to have to work out some technical kinks here and there. Yeah. But we're going to start tonight by going over the earthquakes that we have seen from the last week or week and a half. And today it's out in the news that a 7.2 magnitude earthquake has just struck Turkey, killing at least 85 people and sparking widespread panic as it collapsed dozens of buildings into piles of twisted steel and chunks of concrete. Tens of thousands of residents fled into the streets, running, screaming, and trying to reach relatives on cell phones. As the full extent of the damage became clear, desperate survivors dug into the rubble with their bare hands, trying to rescue the trapped and the injured. Turkish scientists estimated that up to 1,000 people could already be dead due to low local housing standards and the size of the quake. The earthquake also shook buildings in neighboring Armenia and Iran. Okay, another earthquake that we've seen also this week is one in San Francisco, albeit a small one, but the second in just the span of about a week. San Francisco earthquake, second quake, hits almost exactly 22 years after quake of 1989. And this story is from last Thursday. And actually, let me rephrase that. The second earthquake struck San Francisco just 6 hours after the first earthquake. Next, after that, 2 small earthquakes have been recorded in Oklahoma by the USGS. One of the earthquakes was about, again, we have another set of dual earthquakes just to the north of me in Oklahoma. One about 9 miles east of Oklahoma City. The other was about 45 miles east of Oklahoma City. Next to that, to the south of me, the biggest earthquake in San Antonio, Texas, in 45 years. Rare 4.6 magnitude earthquake strikes near San Antonio, Texas. Small earthquakes in Texas are not exceptionally rare, but are seldom felt in this area. And then, of course, I'm sure you all heard about this one, and this is from October 13th, 5.3 magnitude quake right off the Oregon coast. Now, originally it was a 5.9, but they downgraded that, but we see this a lot for some reason with the USGS, the downgrading of the magnitude of earthquakes. Reports of people feeling the quake range from Coos Bay and North Bend on the Oregon coast as far as Portland, Oregon. In California, there were reports that came in from Santa Rosa and a town north of San Francisco. By the way, that was 140 miles off the southern Oregon coast, and that was, again, on October 13th.
Yeah, I didn't even feel those, I didn't even feel any of that.
You didn't feel that, Bill?
No.
Geologists are predicting a large shift in the Cascadia subduction zone out in the Pacific Ocean off Oregon's coast. They predict that the next earthquake will hit 9 on the Richter scale. And we've heard this a lot. This is no longer news to us. And they say in the article, quote, ring church bells in Boise. The quake would also produce a tsunami to Oregon's coast in 6 minutes' time. Last earthquake update for the evening is magnitude 7.6 quake near remote New Zealand islands. The region lies on the Ring of Fire, an arc of earthquake and volcanic zones that stretches around the Pacific Rim. About 90% of the world's quakes occur in the region. And so before we start talking about Wall Street, I wanted to get into the earthquakes. I want to make people understand this show is not just about conspiracies. It's not doom and gloom. It's being aware that our world is changing. Now, what you do with this information is up to you. But our world is changing. Our world is not always going to be the way that it is right now. So be aware, be very aware. So in our weekly solar flare update, we have a picture of this. A bright coronal mass ejection blasted off the sun yesterday on October 22nd, and it appears to be headed for Mars. That's pretty interesting. Of all the time for Mars, the the planet of war, it's about to get hit by the sun. It's kind of odd.
You notice that CME is just as big as the sun itself? That's a huge, huge one.
Yeah, well, we've been seeing a lot more CMEs, Bill, in the last month. We've even seen more comets slamming into the sun,
Well,
which
we're approaching the peak of the 11-year
mass
sun.
ejection.
The 11-year sunspot cycle. I can't even say it.
So
It's the 11-year cycle. We're coming to the peak of it.
we're coming to the peak of the 11-year cycle. Thank you for reminding me, and it's in 2013. So we can expect to see an escalation of solar flares in the next 2 years. Analysts at the Goddard Space Weather Lab expect the cloud to reach the red planet on October 26th. Now, let's talk about Occupy Wall Street. I'm curious to hear from you guys if you want to email me at alex_answer@hotmail.com what your experience has been at the Occupy Portland protests. Certainly a lot of different people are coming together, and this is the time for people to talk things out, because we seriously have an education problem in this country. In many cases, it's a lack of awareness on the part of some protesters as to how we got in this mess, how Washington, the government, and the corporations work together to rob the people. It's not just the corporations. So asking the government to install new measures to, quote, tax who they say is the rich is not going to fix the problem. They want to push class warfare. As this house of cards comes down, they want you pointing at your neighbor going, look, he's got a nicer car than me. Tax him. Tax his ass. That's going to fix my problems. It's not going to fix the problems. We've got to deal with what happened in 2008. $27 trillion was taken from the American taxpayers, money that hasn't even been paid yet. And there's no way we can pay that back. We've been robbed. And just a couple days ago, we got the revelation. We've got the new detail. We'll get into that later. Bank of America was just given $75 trillion, guaranteed insured derivatives. Moved into another insurance box. They're going to be guaranteed that amount of money in some way, somehow, some form.
I'm showing one of the protesters. He has a sign that says, "There is no honor in police brutality."
There is no honor in police brutality, and I've talked at great length for years on this show about how this system that I oppose is very much controlling even of women. And when you saw those pictures in New York of women getting punched in their face and their hair being grabbed, I mean, it broke my heart as much as yours, I'm sure. But I mean, that's a metaphor for the type of society that we live in. And there should be no more denial any longer for those that are living in Wonderland thinking this doesn't affect us. It's right at our door.
Yeah, now the one I got up there now, it says, I served over there, but the real enemy was, crossed off, is over here.
Yeah, yeah. There's been a lot more people that have been
They're beginning to figure it
joining
out.
this particular protest that are ex-military, and that has a massive psychological impact when it comes to the modern day battlefield, which has become Wall Street. When you have Marines standing up for protesters, standing in the face of police brutality.